I am Arjun Swaminathan. I am a photographer and a filmmaker. And I've been working in the rural and tribal areas of this country for a while. It's a very conscious decision not to work in the urban areas for me to tell stories, because it doesn't seem exciting enough. The idea of native picture came about a couple of years ago when I was shooting in Chhattisgarh. We were working with an organization telling stories about tribal people and how they use their water. From there we went to the Himalayas, and we were again filming about water stories there in the Himalayas. My cameraman and I, we were talking, and there was this thing. It was a realization that these stories just don't come out unless an organization pays or let's say hires a media organization like to make a film or make photo stories. These stories don't come out, and the audience also is very limited. And when you do hear a story, it is mostly these people are turned into statistics. 35% of farmers, 12% of tribal people. It just did not make sense. So that is when this entire thing came about, saying that these stories have to be told. The idea of telling those stories as they see it and not me re-authoring it. So, I hear from somebody and then I type out an article, putting in my own 2 cents or whatever it might be. So again, I am giving a perception to it. And I didn't want that, because when you read that, you are taking in my perception. So I wanted you as an audience to form an opinion yourselves. Maybe that will make you read a little more, want to know a little more about that land and stuff like that. So that is when this entire journey of native pictures started, and it got very serious, again a couple of years ago when started posting it on social media and website and stuff like that. Since then it's been good, but yeah, it still needs to grow. This is where our life is. There is a disconnect that is forming today between urban and the hinterlands, and that disconnect is rather getting larger, and how it is affecting each one of us because of this disconnect is not very easy to understand now, unless we really put ourselves into that subject and try to understand. But there will be effects of it much later. So these are these faces, these places that you go and see, and it is that little moment that you just have to sit and listen. Just sitting down and listening to somebody is something that I hope we are not missing out again. And all of these faces have so many stories to say. They are happy, they are sad, they are about their culture, their life, their kids, their grandchildren, their parents, and all of them are so culturally rich. So yeah, this is where we begin. And this was shot in the border of Maharashtra and Karnataka, just outside of Belgaum. And we were shooting a story about sugarcane farmers, and we were in the car traveling, and I noticed something. I told the car, stop, just stop right there. So we walked across to the farm. We had this daughter-in-law and mother-in-law with a grandchild tied to the back, DVDing the land. I sat down and spoke to them, and I said, why are you doing this? Isn't there a man in the house? He said he's gone to look for work in Belgaum, but we had to continue to deweed because it is time for us to sow our seeds. Here we find that the entire family that comes together, you can't leave the child anywhere, the work has to happen. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law have gotten together and said, we're going to do this together. This man here, his name is Prasad. So Prasad is an agricultural laborer. He does own land, but a very small parcel of land where he can't really cultivate. Right now he is on a break, and he is looking after his shop, which he has for over 15 years. So we were talking about how he makes his money, what he does, where he gets his income from. He said, I get most of my income from the shop right now because I'm not going and working out. So, okay. So, have you thought of improving this shop, getting a loan from the bank? He's from the Yadava community, so which is like the lowest rung of the caste, right? So, did you try for a loan? He said, the bank won't give me a loan. I said, sure, why? Why do you think the bank won't give me? There's a cooperative bank right across the street. Just down that road was a cooperative bank. Why don't you go? They said, they want papers for the, I'm sure you have had it for about 15 years. You must have papers for the store. Yes, but I don't have a license for the store. Oh, okay. So what do you have to do to apply for a license? I have to go to the panchayat. So have you tried going to the panchayat? Yes, I tried. So what did they say? They said that this, you see this threshold? This is the road. This is the threshold. The distance from the threshold to the road has to be 3 feet. I said, great. So what is wrong? Mine is 2.5 feet. And I, wow. You're not getting a loan because of 6 inches. So what are you going to do? I said, so you're going to break this down and push your shop back by 6 inches. He said, I can't do that. Why? That's going to cost me money and I can't get a loan. But even if I push it back by 6 inches, I'm not sure the panchayat will give me a license. So I'm just here as is. So it is just 6 inches, and I wonder, with so many encroachments, so many irregularities happening around, this man could not get a loan because he was 6 inches off. And these stories are quite recurring across. And you wonder, why aren't these people moving ahead in life, is what a lot of people ask. They are still stuck in poverty, they are still stuck here, why aren't they moving here? So these are the inequalities that are faced. So that understanding, if the urban set of people get, so we will, there are so many things that could change along the way. This is where the idea of lost comes in. So we are all lost in our own worlds, running around doing our own stuff. But imagine 6 inches and he does not get a loan. He could have really made up his store. So what happens here is this. I am taking the example of Polpuli itself. You have the Communist Party, you have the orange guys, and you have these chaps, and you have these fellows, and all of them play people. At the time of the election, there is this villager who will go to one party worker or a party leader and he says, I want a loan. That party leader says, sorry, I can't give you a loan. So he goes to another party, says, oh, okay, I'll get you a loan. So a call is made to the cooperative bank, a loan is given, done, elections are over. So sure, this guy would have voted for that party leader. The elections are done. 2 weeks later, this villager gets calls constantly. Have you paid the loan? Have you paid the loan back? Have you paid the loan back? The way these political parties play people, it's astounding. You're like, how? And that man, he just cannot sustain the pressure. He will do something drastic. And then everybody goes, oh, this man committed suicide. But why? Because of some political party wanting to get one single vote. Reheng is his name. He is over 80. And I sat down with him. I asked him, what is your name? How old are you? He said, I must be over 80. I said, okay, that's a good enough guess that you had. So what is it that you do? He said, I make bamboo. I make crafts with bamboo. And I asked him, listen, while you were growing up, there was one dream that you had, that you wanted to do. What was that dream? He looked at me, he thought for a minute and he said, I wanted to learn everything that was there to do with bamboo crafts. So have you learnt everything? He said, yes, I have. And now I'm trying to teach my grandchildren. His dream was to learn everything that was to learn with bamboo. So when you look at these arts and crafts from different regions, it's unbelievable. It's such a treasure. And every person, 90% of them, when I speak to them, what is it, how is the next generation going to work with this? They say, I don't know. From potters to these bamboo craftsmen to whatever, musicians, they don't know. They don't know what's the next generation going to happen. Because those kids are out on their motorcycles in the cities, roaming around and having a gala time. This is going away. This was shot at in Ramnagar, very close, at the cocoon market. While doing this story, I came across Mr. Shiv Kumar. So he's into making cocoons. So he gave me a very interesting perspective, and he said, ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್, ನಾವು ರೈತರಿದ್ದೀವಲ್ಲ, ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ಜೀವಿಗಳು, ನಾವು ಕಷ್ಟ ಪಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆಸೆ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಕಷ್ಟಪಡೋಕ್ಕೆ, ಬಟ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬೆಲೆನೇ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. This lady, I met her at the hills of Kotagiri in Nilgiris. She was praying to that idol, and one, there's a Trishul there, symbol. And I was saying, why are you doing this? She said, it's God. I said, yes, but why in this place? She said, there is a spring right next to it. If I pray, that is when my spring is going to survive, it's going to live. For me, water is God, and God is water. I have to take care of my water if I have to live. And that is the importance that they have given to their natural resource. That every day they go, they pray, they thank for the water that there is there, and then go for their work. I went further, I went uphill, and this was some farming happening. So he was, sowing some saplings, and some millet was grown. So I wanted to go closer and make a photograph of him, very just the face I wanted to make a photograph of. Then he said, please don't come in. I said, really? I said, why? You are wearing your shoes. Please remove your shoes and then come in. Wow. When we see that, that's soil, that's mud, right? You actually wear shoes and then go out. He said, no, this is our God. We have to harvest this. We have to, give it to the God, and then everything else happens. So please don't wear your shoes, remove your shoes and then come in. So I removed my shoes and I went in and made some photographs. So the contrast from here to about 15 kilometers away, this place called Kukultorai, is this. You see all of this? So that is all farmland, where they have made. And here you have these broccolis and lettuce and all of that. That is where you get all of your Mediterranean vegetables. When we are buying something, when we are ordering something, whatever we are doing, are we conscious about what we are doing? So when we go to a store or when we go to a restaurant, when we say, let me have that salad with lettuce and broccoli and zucchini and all of that, am I being aware of what I am ordering? That awareness is what we need to get. Because at the end of it, that guy is spraying this because the city is asking for so much food. He doesn't have an option because there is so much food that we need. So he is doing all of this so that he can supply. His idea is to supply. So when I spoke to Surendra and I said, why don't you turn organic? He said, I will get so many farmers to turn organic. I will make sure that 500 acres is turned organic. Can you give me a market for it? Right? So they are willing. So how aware are we is what we need to figure out. This is another fun story. These two are priests. I met these two and they were priests. I asked them where they were going. They said, we are going to, pray. I said, yeah, where? I don't see any temple or any shrine. Where are you going? He said, you see that tree? I said, yeah, we are going to pray to that tree. I said, wow, let me come with you. So I went there. He said, what is it that you pray? This is our mother nature is our God, and we want to protect it. So if my kids have to have a good prosperous future, I have to make sure my nature is right, my environment is right, my surroundings are clean. I protect all of this that there are. So if I protect them, they will protect me. That is why I do this puja. This man's name is, he is also a priest. His name is Goma Champia, and he comes from the Manoharpur district of Jharkhand. This man, I asked him, sir, what is development? Vikas ka matlab kya hota hai? He looked at me straight in the eye and he said, Raksha karna. I had never thought of that as development. Raksha karna. That just throughout everything that I had, the concept of development in itself, when preservation becomes development. So when we look at these people who live in the hinterlands and we go and we just try to absorb as much as possible from them and hopefully try, for me at least, see if that can be used in the urban lifestyle, which is very difficult, very close to impossible. But when you look at those thoughts, they are so profound. But for them it is a way of life. For me it was very profound. For me that was the idea of development, which we are, which we think of differently. At least we are being told differently. If we are not thinking, we are being told differently. So yeah, so Goma Champia was the hero. So thank you. Any questions? Yeah. Well, I put out these stories on social media, and I try as much to not leave information that I have got, because a lot of it gets lost in translation. Because the way he told me that Raksha Karna gets a completely different meaning when I try to explain it in any other language. For me, instead of getting an expert speaking about what development is, I would rather get Goma Champia to speak about what development is, because his perception is very different as compared to an IAS. I spend, if I am speaking to someone, I spend close to an hour with that person, because it takes that much time for anybody to kind of say anything, and you really can't deep dive into any subject immediately as to, and I wish I could spend more time, but resources for me become limited in themselves.
Do you feel you're parachuting in and out of these places?
Sometimes I do, but there are a lot of times like the Nilgiris I revisit. So there are a lot of times that I revisit. So yeah, there are times when a certain project has taken 2.5 years, which is revisiting that place. So yeah, I do revisit a lot. I have gone through this a lot. This was in 2011, 2012 when I was in Bijapur area. I was, I thought I'd do a story myself. I started photographing the families of farmers who had committed suicide, 2011. And I was going around every time, because then, I had to go look for those families myself. I didn't have the contacts yet. I had not built the contacts yet. So I would go to a local bank, I would ask people, I would just ask around, and I go, and there would be a crowd behind me if I went to a village, saying that, so what are you going to? Are you going to give us relief? Are you going to do this? Are you going to give us money? And it became I am not a government official, I'm not from the bank, I'm here to document a story. So that became quite difficult, and it still happens. Now the shoots, there's always somebody with me, a local. So if there is somebody who comes and asks me a question, if I have the time and I'm not shooting, I will speak to them. Otherwise I say, can you please speak to that person? So I assign that person to be spoken with. I make sure that I do not say anything that will come across as their life is going to get any better, because I am not in a position to make their lives better. I cannot do that. And with regard to how do they open up, my camera comes in a lot later. So I first speak, and then and then the camera comes in. I don't just go right there and say boom, I'll shoot. That I would hate it myself. So I go sit down, I speak with them, I spend a lot of time, and there are times when they say no, I don't want to talk. You just leave them there. The entire idea is to let them be. When they figure out that you're trying to extract something out of them, that's when things go wrong. When you just let them be and have a conversation with them, that's everything falls into place. That's a very tough thing. That's very tough. Having an impact, I wouldn't. No, when if you say impact is building awareness, yes, I would start from there, because when anybody says impact, you think of a change in the society, right? That's a far shot right now, but everything begins with awareness. Are we aware of it? That's when you start thinking, oh, when I say that, this is how they protect their trees. So when you look at a tree in front of your house or anywhere in a park or wherever, you would look at it differently. That's all it is. So that is the first step. That is what I aim for first. The behavior change comes a lot later. So once we are kind of, yes, I know where I am, I know what I am doing, once we get that, then everything else will follow. Everybody wants to come to cities. Everybody wants to come to cities.
What is the perception of cities in their mind?
Everybody is rich and happy. When I sit in an Ola or an Uber, I speak to those drivers and I try to figure out why he is here and what he is doing and why he has left a good life there, but he has an opposite idea of a good life there to here. So we have that conversations, where he thinks he can make more money here. There is also this, when you can earn 500 rupees a day, here you earn 750 rupees a day, for example. But that 250 rupees goes away into your rent and food and everything else. So you end up with as much or lesser than what you would earn in your village. So, but this looks fancy. So that is being fed, or not being fed, that is being taken in, saying that it looks fancy. Why? I mean, it's not wrong either. I mean, why shouldn't I lead that life? Where I sit on a motorbike, I go to malls, I buy stuff, I do this, I travel in the metro. Why not? So it's not wrong of that village man or a tribal man to think such either. We all want it. I do read, and it's a lot of serendipity as well. You are somewhere, then you see there is a dam that has happened, then you think, oh, what would have happened to all of these houses here if there is a dam? What happens next? How is it helping anybody else? Then it just builds on to something else. I don't have that kind of resource backup, but whenever I'm in some place, I think this could be done, and then I build on something else, and it happens.